Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dante Powell Show. This is episode 2. Admittedly, out a little bit late. I want to apologize for that. Had a weird weekend, guys. It was a good weekend. I got to hang out with my kids. We went to a live nativity scene where they had like actual horses and donkeys and stuff out. And we like drove through it, and it was set up to where the kids couldn't even really see it, but they listened to all the recordings at each station that you went through that told the story of Christmas and Jesus being born, and it was cool. Also, Friday, when I'm gonna try to do these on Fridays. You know, with my job and having shows on the weekend, I won't always get to do that. I'm going to try to do this as regularly as I can. Like even tonight, I was like, I cannot not do the show today because I want to make sure I'm getting in the habit of doing it. And so Friday night, I thought, I'm going to come home, cook dinner for the family, do the podcast, go to bed, have a great weekend. And then Friday, when I was making dinner, I was slicing some onion on a mandolin, which I thought was a musical instrument, but apparently is a cooking. But it's not something you cook with, something you use to slice veggies and stuff. And anyway, slicing onions on the mandolin, and I cut my thumb really bad. If you're watching, I'll try to show it. You can see I'm ashy, but you can also see the pretty bad cut on my thumb there. I just showed it. So if you're just listening to this, I'm sorry you can't see it, but just imagine a very bad cut on someone's thumb. And because I was one-handed in trying to like help with kids and stuff, I was like, you know what, this should probably wait. And then I just had so much other stuff to do on Saturday and Sunday that it ended up taking me until today to get to this. At any rate, we're here, we're doing it, and I don't want to waste anyone's time. I want to get right into it. This week's episode, I got some fun stuff I want to talk about with you guys. First things first, I wanted to talk about regional grocery stores. So I spent a couple years of my life as an over the road trucker. If you didn't know that about me, welcome aboard. You're learning things already. I was trucking, I was over the road, and I got a chance to see 48 of the lower 48 United States. So I've been to every state except Alaska and Hawaii. So after I was a trucker, I became a comedian, and as a comedian, I've been to, I believe, like 30, 33 to 37 states. I always get the count wrong, but been all over doing shows. I still have quite a few I need to knock out, but we'll get there. And so, like, I don't know, in doing all this traveling, I get a chance to see like so many different cool things. And one of the cool things that we have in this country are these regional grocery stores. And so I just wanted to talk about them real quick in my experience, as limited as it may be. But here's the thing, when I'm talking about this stuff, I want you guys to engage with me. So when I post this stuff, like, let me know what you think. Like, don't be one of those listeners that's thinking to yourself, should I engage with him? You should. I'm telling you, please engage with me. I'd love that. And so let's just jump right into it. So I want to start out west, showing some love to Albertsons because they've got quite a few stores out there. I spent some time in like California, spent some time driving out in like Washington State, Oregon, places like that. I didn't even know they had Albertsons out there. I actually worked at an Albertsons in Louisiana when I was in college. And so I like have a fondness for it in my heart. But it's always cool to see them out west because I didn't know that was a like West Coast thing. And so like I know when I went out to Los Angeles a few times. They've got like Ralph's out there and Vons and some stuff like that. And there are like even within the region, you have like these other supermarket chains that are even more like specific to areas than just the region. And so one of the things I like about Albertsons is they have a pretty good deli. That's where I worked at the Albertsons. So at least the one I worked at had a good deli. The ones out west, anytime I stopped there and go in, they'd always have good stuff that reminded me of the one I worked at actually. So I really enjoyed that. And that was, just something that I like when you can go into, a Target or a Walmart, wherever you may be in the country. And even though there are slight variations, you still feel like, oh, I know where I am. That's always been a cool thing to me. Uh, I think there are some honorable mentions here. So, like, when you think about the West Coast and you think about places like Colorado, I know they've got King Supers, I think is what it's called. I've been out there a few times. I don't I don't recall much about them. I just remember they have a cool logo. They also, what else they have Sprouts in Colorado is what I remember those as well. Um like I didn't know whether to include Texas as the South or the West Coast, but uh, we'll we'll just talk about Texas and then we'll move to the South. How about that? Because that is kind of like Texas has HEB. Let's just get into it. Okay. I used to live in San Antonio. I lived in San Antonio from 2007 to 2009. It introduced me to HEB, and they are maybe the greatest grocery store chain in the world. They do everything right. They had everything I'd ever want all the time. The deli was great. The hot food case was great. It seems like I'm going to talk about hot food a lot on this podcast, so just buckle up for that. Get ready, okay? Um, they just did it all really well. And I appreciated that. The people there were always super nice. It was always clean. And I know some of you probably live in areas where you're like, the HEB where I live is kind of trashy. And I'm sorry about that. I don't know what to tell you, quite honestly, how to get that fixed. But the ones in the areas I frequented were always super nice. And I enjoyed them so much. And so, HEB, I just have to shout them out and start with them. Texas is it's so big that you have a bunch of different, it's almost like you could do an entire podcast episode on like the different chains of not even just grocery stores, but just like restaurants and just different things in Texas because they always seem to work as their own entity. Houston has a thing, Dallas has a thing, Austin has a thing, San Antonio has a thing, El Paso has a thing. But what they all seem to have nowadays is HEB, and that's really cool to me. I like that a lot. So I want to go ahead and jump to the Midwest. Let's talk about them. That's where I live now. I live in Iowa, home to Hy-Vee. That's the one. They got it around here. They doing it up. And actually in the Midwest, it's kind of weird because you do have quite a few heights, but you've also like in Illinois, you've got Jewel Osco. They're like super big, and then like out in kind of the Indiana, Michigan areas, I do a lot of shows out there. They've got Meyer. It's spelled weird, I think, but or you know what? I shouldn't say it's spelled weird. It's spelled in a way that's not how I traditionally saw Meyer spelled, right? And so I remember I was going to Michigan a couple years ago, and I got out there and I went to a Meyer and got what did I get there? I was getting some alcohol, and I got everything I needed, and they had Tito's buy one get one free on whatever size you wanted, and I thought these people they've lost their mind. Like this has to be maybe they've marked it up so much that by the time you buy the one bottle, you're paying for two. And so I just thought, let me double check, see what Tito's is running for back in Iowa. So I pulled up the Walmart app to see what a bottle of Tito's was back home. And it was actually less at this Meyer than it was at the Walmart in Iowa where I lived. And I'm like, wait, I'm getting two for less than one back there. And I thought, well, let me triple check this. So I put in an address for the Walmart back in Louisiana where I'm from, and it was about the same. So I'm like, I just thought it was so interesting that they were like competitive in that way for a product that's made in Texas, but that has started to pick up some universal appeal across the states and like really pop off. I just that like always stuck with me. I was like, oh, this is actually really impressive that they're doing something like this. And so yeah, I have like really cool place in my heart for Meyer. Shout out to them for doing that. And then like as far as the East Coast goes, I think they just all eat at like bodegas. Like I don't know what they have on the East Coast. Like I know in like the Southeast, like the Carolinas and stuff, they have Food Lion, I think. I've been to a few of those. I like their logo. It looks kind of regal. But yeah, like the upper East Coast, like when you start running up 95 up north of Virginia and you get into like Philly, they tear buildings up and eat the bricks, I think. In like Baltimore, they just I don't know. I don't know. Do they have grocery stores in the East Coast? I don't know. It seems like they eat at corner stores and liquor stores. I don't know what you guys are doing up there. Like DC, Baltimore, Philly, Manchester, New Hampshire. Like when you need some Ben and Jerry's, where do you go? What do you guys get up there? Because I'm unfamiliar with the area. I spent a lot of time up there too, driving. I'd go up and there were a lot of like those like the things on the tollways where you could pull off and like the rest areas with McDonald's and stuff in them. Is that where you guys buy your groceries? I don't know. I I didn't get a chance to like ingratiate myself into your community, so I don't know what you guys were doing. And then like all the art I consume that you guys take part in. Like I don't watch any shows that are based in New York where I see people regularly shopping at grocery store chains. It's always just like some generic grocery store uh, that it just like it says groceries out front on the side. Uh, and then I wanted to give a quick shout out to like the underrated the most underrated, in my opinion, grocery store in the country. That is Publix. I love Publix. My dad, before he passed, was living in Atlanta. That's what he grew up in that area in Gainesville, Georgia. And when I go visit him in Georgia, we do everything at Publix. Um, and so that place has a bit of a hold on me as well. I like Publix because they got the chicken tender sub. So you know you can't go wrong with that. I enjoyed it. Someone introduced me to it. I think my friend Tim. Tim used to always tell us about when the Publix chicken tender sub was $6.99, and I remember seeing that all the time. And then when I finally was around the Publix, I saw that they were $6.99. I was like, I got to try the chicken tender pub sub, and I went and got it, and it was really good. So I wanted to shout them out. And then the other honorable mentions, my favorite and everyone's favorite, I think Aldi. Shout out to them. I love that Aldi has that one aisle where you can just walk down and you could find you could literally find a Picasso painting if you look hard enough. But then you also might find like off-brand Fruit Loops, you know, fruit rings. You might see those. You just never know. I love that about that place. I love that they keep their prices uh, right where you need them to be, and I like that like it's kind of like still a hidden secret, and so I could take my kids there and we go and they just have such a good time because like it's not overcrowded. It's like small enough that you can just kind of get in, walk all the aisles, get whatever you need. And like I said, I love that they have the most random of items at great prices. So shout out to Aldi as well as Trader Joe's. I think Trader Joe's is like they're popping in a bunch of different places. And then lastly, like I know that a lot of places don't have these, but IGA was the only grocery store we had in my hometown growing up. So shout out to the IGAs out there that are still in these small towns in like rural America and like making it happen for these places that don't really have much going on. So that's going to do it for our first segment. Regional grocery store chains. How about that? We're out here learning about each other and learning about the world. So I'm going to take a quick break and be right back with you. Thanks for listening to the Dante Powell Show. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Dante Powell Show. Thanks again so much for listening. Let's jump right into our second segment here. Let's just talk about it a little bit because I have been wanting to get into some of this. I've been patiently waiting to talk to you guys about some of this. The first episode, I mentioned that one of the tenets of listening to this podcast and one of the things to know about me is that I 100% believe that I could smoke crack and not get addicted to it. And people didn't clip it. I clipped it. Okay. I sent it out as a clip and people joked with me. They thought it was super silly, even though I was being 100% serious. And I know I can. But it got me to thinking. I was like, you know what? There are people out there who 100% have never smoked crack, but they have incredible crackhead energy. Like you can just look at them and tell you, okay, I know this person doesn't do drugs. I can tell by the way they get down, they don't do drugs, but they have the energy of a crackhead. And so I put together a small list for you guys of people who give off crackhead energy, but I'm certain do not smoke crack. And we're going to start with Stephen A. Smith, sportscaster, sports analyst, host of First Take, podcaster, one of the greatest voices for sports in this country. And that dude is so dope. Like Stephen A., he basically runs ESPN and he kept him afloat, quite honestly. Like post-COVID, that dude was doing so much work and he still does so much work. And he's just a super dope dude. But you can't tell me you don't watch Stephen A. Smith and think, you know what, he got a little crackhead in him. That dude, he operating with some real crackhead tendencies right now. And I know, if you were to broach that subject with him and be like, hey, Stephen A., you kind of putting off crackhead vibes right now. He wouldn't go for it. Cause I don't even think he's the one that's always don't smoke weed. So he would not, Stephen A. would be so upset. He'd hit you with some real, listen here, brother. I don't know where you get off thinking to yourself that you can say anything about me. All right. First of all, smoking crack when I'm the one telling people to stay off the weed. Stephen A. would get way too into it and not be happy about it. But I think that's what gets him is that every now and again you watch TV and he's like, no. I'm going to tell you what it's about. Okay. It's about the repercussions of your actions. And while that may be true, when you say it like that, you make it sound like the repercussions of your actions are prison times or an addiction to crack. Okay. So that's our starting place. We're going to go ahead and move through the list with our next recipient, and that person is Bernie Sanders. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you listening love Bernie Sanders, your Bernie bros and sisses. That dude got crackhead energy. And a lot of times people don't think of old people as crackheads, and a lot of times people don't think of white people as crackheads. But this dude embodies that spirit. Bernie Sanders is always asking for money, okay? He be walking around in clothes that you are pretty certain are secondhand. Wait a minute, this dude, why you dressed like that? I saw that he had some mittens somebody made for him one time. They were crackhead mittens. I'm just gonna be honest. Those are the mittens that you give to somebody as a gift, and then they give them to the Salvation Army, and the crackhead gets them at the Salvation Army or the Goodwill. And Bernie was just like, I'm gonna skip some steps here and just hold on to these and put my little crackhead hands in them and walk around. He was at an inauguration one time when everybody else was standing up. He was just sitting around looking mad. He needed a fix. That's what that was. But he don't actually smoke. Because, again, these are people who don't actually smoke crack. But they got crackhead energy. So Bernie Sanders, extreme crackhead energy. Next up on the list, the Red M&M. He smoked crack. Okay? I know I said that these are the people that don't smoke crack, and I just said he does smoke crack. But I think what I mean by that is when that's the vibe you get as soon as you see him. But he's an M&M, so he can't physically pipe himself down. So it's just like crackhead energy he's giving out. You remember the Christmas commercial that comes out every year? He does exist. They do exist with Santa Claus. The peanut M&M, hella chill. He's stoned. He smoked weed. Okay, that I think is actually true. I think that one does. I don't know how he figured it out. I don't know if he on edibles or he got a vape or what. But the red one, that guy, I be seeing him in other commercials, and he just gives off strong, like functional crackhead energy. Sorry to be the one to tell you, but it's true. And then I think like this. We'll go ahead and close this thing out. I got two more for you, okay? So second to last is gonna be Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew smokes crack the same way that the red M&M smokes crack, where they can't physically smoke crack, so you know they don't. But it's crackhead energy all over Mountain Dew. Diet Mountain Dew the same way. You just got clean and you want everybody to think you won't smoke crack, but you will. Diet Mountain Dew, you will. Okay, and crackhead like Mountain Dew when I was growing up was very like they would do the do, and you would see them on snowboarding commercials and stuff like that. Now Mountain Dew wants us to think they've like grown up and gone to rehab and got their life together, and they've written some books that they self-published on Amazon and stuff like that. But I know that deep down inside, like it's just some real crackhead energy waiting to bubble up. And every time somebody cracks one open and takes a sip, they just get a little crackhead energy in them. And I like that. I think that's okay. And then the last person that I want to talk about who has crackhead energy, but I'm certain doesn't smoke crack, is I think he's like a manager for rappers. I know he used to manage the rapper The Game. There's this dude named Whack 100. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's on podcasts all the time nowadays. But this dude got some serious crackhead energy. And I can just tell he never smoked crack. He's too coherent mentally and like funny. But the stuff he says is just always the most random, wild stuff. And it's just the great, like, I love watching this dude. He's the funniest human on earth, I think, because he'll just be doing a podcast with somebody and he's connected in the streets. And so he'll just be talking about something and randomly he'll just be like, yeah, and we're talking about Michael Jackson. I actually got the pictures from his autopsy of his booty hole. I ain't show nobody, that got sent to me in a text message, but I ain't even show nobody. I could have been out here showing people the pictures of Michael Jackson booty hole, but I didn't. I could have, but I did. It's just the most random, absurd stuff you ever hear. Yeah, he's like, Robert Downey Jr. before he was Iron Man. The reason he was Iron Man is because I was about to rob him at the airport, but he ran down the jetway and it wasn't a plane there. And when he jumped off, he floated in the air for a little bit. And I guess one of the directors from Marvel was actually at LAX that day and he saw how he floated when he went down. He was like, he'd make a good Iron Man. And it's just, so it's just the most random collection of craziness and crackhead energy you ever come across. And I just love it. I love it. I love it. Like, we need to protect Whack 100 at all costs because he will 100% just get on like whatever platform he can and beef with other rappers and like hood dudes. But then also at the same time, he has the most rant, like he will just be like, I choreographed the last Britney Spears video that went viral. I actually did the choreography for that. Because I saw it. I was searching YouTube for choreography and I saw it. And I had Britney number from one time we were going to do a song with her. And I texted it to her on accident. I thought I was texting it to my friend Britney, but I sent it to Britney Spears and then I seen her doing it on Instagram. He's just like, wow, this dude is incredible. But that crackhead energy is there. And like I said, he's too coherent and like put together for him to actually smoke crack. But man, the crackhead energy, just great. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to transition real quick from crackhead energy to something that made me consider smoking crack. Like it was crazy out here in these streets. So as you guys know, I live in Iowa. And in Iowa, we have a state capital like most United States do, right? Our state capital has been in the news lately, though, because this Christmas, our state capital, the Satanic Temple in Iowa, decided to put up a display at our state capital. And what they do is they do these displays to make sure that states are honoring religious freedom. So, like, if you can put up displays for Christmas that honor Christianity, the Satanic Temple will put one up to honor other religions. And this one was, I believe, Satanism. They put up, it was an, I guess it would be considered an idol or like a statue of uh, this horned figure, and I don't know the name of it, but it was meant to evoke emotion out of people in general, right? So they put it up as kind of like, hey, we're taunting you. And again, I don't have any issue with that. I think it's totally fine. And even if they want to stand on the fact that they're saying we're not taunting anyone, we're just expressing our religious freedom in the face of Christians doing the same thing with Christmas, cool, that's great, right? So they put up this display, and the people of Iowa went crazy about it. They were not happy. Our governor, Kim Reynolds, came out and said it was objectionable. She allowed it to be there, which again, honoring religious freedom. A few lawmakers here in the state wanted it taken down. It just became a big topic around here, up until the point that a gentleman by the name of Michael Cassidy, who is actually from Mississippi, he ran for Congress in Mississippi and lost, but he decided that, you know what, in order to make myself be known, I got to drive all the way to Iowa and I have to destroy this effigy that has been built and put up. I need to destroy it. And that's what he allegedly did. He drove from Mississippi to Iowa and he tore up, and I believe he's admitted to it, but I'm going to say allegedly. He allegedly tore up this statue that had been put up, and he did it in the face of like standing up for Christianity is sort of what he came out with as his defense. And it kind of upset me. And I won't even say it upset me. It just kind of bothered me to watch it unfold because, first of all, like, these Republicans, which, I mean, that's what he is. He ran for a Republican seat and lost to another Republican. These Republicans, I thought they were the ones who wanted to protect statues. Like, that was your whole thing. Don't tear stuff down just because you disagree with it, right? But then he drove anywhere from 11 to like 17 hours to another state to fight a statue, to tear down a statue. Like, how crazy is that? Why would you? That's so ridiculous. Like, you didn't get 6 hours into that drive and think, you know what? Maybe I'm doing something kind of silly and I should just turn around. Like, I'm in St. Louis. Why don't I stop and get some food? Why don't I get some ribs here in St. Louis and turn around and not make terrible decisions? Nope. He was like, I'm going all the way and I'm going to tear that thing down and I'm going to let the world know that I'm standing up for Christianity. And it bothers me because when you say stuff like that, but you live in Mississippi, where I'm sure there was at least one cross burning that you could have put out to protect Christianity, it kind of bothers me. Like, I don't like that. Like, you need to stick with doing stuff closer to home that can protect Christianity before you go off other places to do that kind of stuff, because it just doesn't, like, it doesn't make sense to me. You guys always talk about how you want to protect freedom when it comes to what you want, but then when others do things that you don't like, it becomes pretty evident and obvious that you're only interested in protecting rights and freedoms where they stand to benefit you. And I don't like that. It really upset me. It really bothered me. And the great people of Iowa have been talking about it, and people were bringing up all these like terrible, I mean, just like the absolute worst options in terms of like, hey, I want to try to draw an analogy to this. Like, just the most false equivalencies you'd ever see. And it just really upset me. It hurt my, like I keep saying it hurt my feelings. It didn't hurt my feelings so much as it made me realize that these people, they need Jesus. Like, they're out here talking about protecting Christianity, but you need like, you need to do better. You need the Lord to come into your heart and fix you. And until you can accept that and be better about what you're doing, I don't want to hear your opinions about anybody else. And so that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. Hey again, and thanks for listening to the Dante Powell Show. I appreciate all of you so very much. But doing this it's not exactly cheap or free. So here's what I'm doing. I'm looking for sponsors. If you want to come on as a sponsor, I'd love to have you. If you want to wait a few weeks and just kind of see how things go, that works for me as well. No rush. I just want you guys to stay interested and listen. So a few things. First of all, if you do want to come on as a sponsor, just message me. However you have access to me, just reach out to me. We can make it work. I'm willing to do whatever we need to do to make sure that it's beneficial for everyone involved. And then secondly, the way you can support me without having to come on as a sponsor is just sharing this. Just tell somebody about it. If you see clips floating around on Instagram, on Facebook, engage with them, comment. Even if you have something that you think isn't worth commenting, I assure you it is. I want to hear this week about what your favorite regional grocery store chain is. Grocery store chain. I don't know why that's so hard to say without sure. I don't know why you messed it up that way if you say it a little too fast. I want to hear what you think, though. I want you to engage with me. I want you to share these clips. I want you to tell people that you listen to it. I want you to get people in the car with you and turn this thing on. I want as much support from you guys as I can get, because without you, I wouldn't have made it as far as I have. And without you, I won't go much further. So thank you for getting me here. I love you guys. Keep listening. Share it. I'll talk to you soon. See you next week.